after COVID, it was very, we were very mental health, mental health. Well,
Right.
we're not even allowed to talk about mental health anymore in Florida. There's no more.
Hi, and welcome back to How Much Can I Make? I'm Mirav Ozeri, a curious journalist with a passion for exploring what people do for a living. This time, I wanted to dig into what it's really like to be a teacher in Florida, because all the new rules and regulations and all the stuff we're hearing about in the news, I thought it would be interesting. So I contacted Danielle Goodman. She's a Florida teacher of many years to try to find out what the job is really like and is it worth the paycheck. So let's dive right in. Danielle, thanks a lot for doing it, first of all.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
My first question is, did you always want to be a teacher?
So I knew you were going to ask me that. That's what most people ask me. And the answer is no. I did not always want to be a teacher. Teaching is actually a second career for me. I didn't start teaching until I was about 39.
Oh,
So yeah, it was
so how
kind
did
of
it come
under,
about?
I was getting divorced and it was sink or swim time. So my actual degree was in liberal arts. And, what can you do with a liberal arts degree? So I spent a lot of time when my children were little in their school, volunteering, PTA, reading to the class. And I realized this is something I did want to do, at turning 40 years old.
Why? Because you had small children and you saw how
I had small
important?
children and I just loved it. I realized that I connected with the children. So, no, when I was in college originally, I didn't think about education or teaching. It was not even anywhere near anything I wanted to do. So, being in the school system, having small children, immersing myself in education really shined a light on that aha moment. This actually is something I want to do. However, I was 40, not 20. So I found out what I had to do because in public school, you need the proper certification.
This is what I
So
want to know. What kind of certification do you need?
while it's different now than it was 20 years ago, not
What
quite
is it
20, I'm not
now?
that old. Now it's a lot less rigorous because we have a teaching shortage. So as it used to be, you had to have a 4-year degree, you had certain certification tests you had to take, you had something called a general knowledge test that you had to pass, and it was much more rigorous where now they're hiring students straight out of high school to substitute and quick, like a fast track towards becoming a teacher.
That's a
So
problem, don't you think?
it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. When I was doing it, I had to go back to school to get all this certification. So here I was, this 40-year-old woman getting divorced with 3 little kids, going back to college to take classes so I can get certified and take all these tests. And it took me about 2 years. I was substituting in the meantime at the private school that my kids were going to. And then realizing once I got divorced, they could no longer attend private school and shuffled them off to public school and started substituting there and formed a relationship with the principal at the school that my kids went to. And he helped me get all of my certifications and he gave me a job.
Oh, and is
And
it a
that's
full-time job, like 8 to 4?
It was a full, so that was elementary school. So it was a full-time job, 8:20 to 3:20. And summers off, I started out in 5th grade,
And you
English.
were teaching art history or art or something?
No, that was until later.
Okay,
I started out in 5th grade teaching reading to 5th graders.
okay.
And once I got the hang of it, I realized I wanted more. So I know this job has to do with salary also. I was
Yeah, we're
going
going
through
to
this with
talk
my
about
brother.
it.
Yeah, I was going through this with my brother today, who's visiting from Chicago, just thinking about in preparation for this. And I looked back at the salary that I was making when I taught 5th grade, and I can't even believe I lived on that. It was embarrassing.
How much
I'm
was
not even,
it?
it was about $32,000 a year
A year? Oh my God. How
for a
can
5th
they
grade
do
teacher.
that?
That's what my brother said.
This is, it's criminal.
So it is criminal, especially, and I'm sure when you talk to San Francisco and New York, those teachers, definitely in New York, it's much better. I don't know how it is in California and San Francisco. It's bad here. It has gone up, and there is a happy ending to my story that, I make about triple that right now, thankfully.
Right,
So it's about 15 years later, and I decided I wanted out of elementary school. And I was able to get a job in a high school
In a high school?
where in the last 7 years I've been working in a high school.
As a teacher, you make more money if you teach in high school?
Yes, that's the trick. So in high school, the days are split up by periods. And by contract, if it's a 6 period day, you teach 5 periods and you have one planning period.
Hmm.
However, if the school's overpopulated, you can ask to have no planning period and then you get paid for that period. So you're making about an extra $6,000 to $7,000 a year. Then you could become a club sponsor, you can become a coach, you can add on all of these different supplements to your paycheck.
And that's only possible in high school, not in elementary.
Only in high school, not in elementary school, because in elementary school you're with your class the whole day. You're teaching one subject with that class the whole day.
Hmm.
So there are ways to supplement your salary. Now, I also tutor. So once I got to high school, I started tutoring, SAT tutoring, college essays. When college applications are ramping up, I'm busy helping students write college essays. And if their parents can afford to have them a college essay tutor, an SAT tutor, it's really, really good money. It's very helpful and to supplement your income of
So the
not a great
tutoring,
teaching job.
you're doing after school hours
After
privately.
school, private school, yes, after school hours.
What's the going rate for a tutor?
In high school
Yeah,
now
yeah.
for SAT tutoring, and it could be anywhere from 75 to $100 an hour.
Ooh, this is really nice.
Yes. So that is helpful to supplement your salary because, as you heard, our salaries in Miami and all of Florida are not great in
They're terrible.
education.
I think, yeah, they're low. I think they're lowest.
I think we're third lowest, which is insane because the cost of living in Miami has skyrocketed.
Exactly. That's why you have a lot of turnover of teachers, no?
A huge amount of turnover, and a lot of the younger teachers still live with their parents.
And
They
you
can't,
mentioned before the size of classes. I read that the sizes in Florida are really large.
they're huge.
What do you have, 40 kids in a class?
37, 40. In the electives, they could have 45 to 50 children in high school. It's insane. And they get away with it. There's loopholes. There's things that they can do to get away with this class size.
And do you believe that it hurts the education? The
Of
children are
course,
dumber?
100%. I was just reading that our report card, the nation's report card, is terrible. Yes, it is definitely the dumbing down of society. And we see it. We see it in the data. We see it in the way they dress, the way they look. They just look like don't care about anything, and certainly not their education.
Wow, that's very sad. If a vigilante teacher would want to get in and change things, do you have any kind of creativity of what you can teach with all the book banning and curriculum restrictions?
So I'll just talk about myself being the advanced placement literature teacher. So I taught English literature for the last 5 years, and then I was able to teach advanced placement art history, these are college level courses. So the curriculum is completely separate from the Miami-Dade County Public School curriculum. So I could get away with teaching stories like Willa Cather's Paul's Case or The Yellow Wallpaper. One of our novels was A Thousand Splendid Suns. No way a regular classroom teacher could teach that right now.
What, they'll
Not
actually
with,
come in and arrest them? What?
yes, parents could come in and complain. I mean, what passed in a couple of years ago. I wrote down the exact year because I knew you were going to ask me about it. In 2022, the Don't Say Gay bill here in Florida.
Right.
There's no more. Your pronoun is your pronoun that you were born with. You can get in serious trouble as a teacher. A student says, "Hey, Miss Goodman, can you call me this instead of this?" And I say, "I'm sorry, but in the grade book, this is your name and this is what I have to call you in order to protect myself and my job."
Wow.
It is very scary. And especially not as much in high school, but in the elementary school and the middle schools, because the children are younger and the parents are very, the helicopter parents. It's scary for those teachers. We have a little bit more leeway, but I will tell you, we are seeing a lot more kids not wanting to put up going to administration. Oh, my teacher said this, my teacher said that. They're just immature. It really is the dumbing down of America. It's sad.
Wow. And what about the teacher union? Don't you get organized? Don't you try to make a change? I mean, you are teachers after all.
Yes, Florida is our union is not that strong because they just actually tried to take
And
away
they,
our union.
right, they
Yes,
weakened it lately.
they weakened our union, and it's sad.
You know, this is what I'm asking you. With all the problems in Florida, with all that you have to teach what you have to teach and call somebody whatever they tell you, and you know, all of that, why do people still stay teachers?
That's a good question. Why do teachers still stay teachers? Well, I'll tell you for myself. Yes, I'm out of the classroom,
Hmm.
but I deal with children every day, all day long. I am the student activities director now. It is the connections that we make, especially in high school with these children. So they're not all as I'm painting them to be.
Hmm.
There's still that top 20, 25% that they push themselves. They're in it to win it. They are smart and creative, and they just, understand, they get it.
Hmm.
They're putting their phones down. They're reading the novels. They're doing the work. They're going the extra mile. And you see that group. And if I can save 25% of them or I can help a certain amount, then I'm going to stay and I'm going to do it. I meant to bring them, today was Valentine's Day.
Right.
The amount of cards that these kids wrote me, I
Wow.
got a rose and I get, notes and flowers. And we, as the activities director this morning, we rolled out a red carpet and we played music. And every student that walked in, we handed a little pink heart with candy. And, that fills my heart because school it's not only about the education, it's about creating a full person and having these children who grow up to be adults become productive members of society in every way.
Do you keep in
Not
touch with them after they
100%. I keep in touch with not all of them, but absolutely. They come home from college. I go to brunch with them. We're friends on social media. Yes, I keep in touch with them 100%, and I see what they're doing, and it
Wow.
fills my heart.
Yeah, I can
So,
see that, of course. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to take the good with the bad, right? You have to have the sweet and the salty, or else you don't know how sweet it is. So
Yeah.
that's why I stay in teaching. I see the younger kids come in, and especially in high school, it's hard for them. It's
Why?
tough because now, if you're not teaching the high level courses and you're teaching the general education or you're teaching remedial courses, you are given a script, you are teaching to a test.
What?
You Oh
You're
yeah.
giving a script?
It's basically like a script of what you're saying, what you're teaching. We have guidelines. There is a
Wow.
textbook. Yes, you are teaching to a test. These kids are tested 3 times a year.
Hmm.
And if they don't pass that test in certain grade levels, they take it till they pass or they don't graduate. These teachers are teaching to a test. The teachers are graded on their data.
So there's actually no creativity in teaching if you have
Not
to. It's terrible.
It's frustrating for these teachers. And that is, again, why I was fortunate to teach these AP level courses where I had full control of my curriculum.
Uh-huh.
No one could say anything because it was not part of the Miami-Dade County curriculum. Most of the children I had in my classes were amazing. Their parents were super cooperative. Their parents loved the novels and the stories and the poetry that we read. Oh, I read that when I was in high school. So I was very lucky. But I see it with the other teachers. And it was, for me at least, time for a change to kind of progress out of the classroom and into the administrative role. Not
And
to mention, I make more money.
yeah, that's what I want to ask you. You make more money, but if somebody stays in teaching, what's the top that they can make?
In Florida,
Yes.
so if you're in high school and you have all the extras, probably about 95 to 100,000. We're talking teachers who've been in for about 30 years, 25 to 30 years.
That's not bad. And they get pension and 401k or
We have a Florida pension, yes. And we also, when you retire, you get your pension. And I know in some cities like Chicago or San Francisco, the teachers get to keep their insurance forever also, but they have to choose between their pension or their Social Security. Whereas in Florida, we don't get our insurance, but we get both a pension and our Social Security.
Okay. You told us, you expressed the rewards, when you see your kids succeed and all of that, which I can totally understand. What's the biggest challenge of the job?
The adults,
The adults? What do you mean by the adults?
administration, when the district comes in and you're not doing that well, the new rules that come down the pike every year, everything changes. Just when you're getting used to something, the adults want to throw in a brand new textbook, or everything changes. There's no more, diversity, equity, and inclusion anymore. So we can't, we have new stories, new textbooks, new
What do you mean? New
scripts that
since
we have to
when?
say
New since when?
in the past year or two. So we used to
Wow.
be, after COVID, it was very, we were very mental health, mental health. Well,
Right.
we're not even allowed to talk about mental health anymore in Florida. There's no more. It's very vanilla,
I'm
Wonder
shocked.
Bread and mayonnaise, as I call it. Oh, yeah.
Not only you're not making enough money, and by the way, I heard that some teachers have to spend their own money to buy supplies for the kids
Well,
because they.
who do you think bought the candy this morning to give out? Miss Goodman. Yes.
But even for class supplies, I heard for lesson supplies that they have to buy some things with their own money.
Yes, so we are given money at the beginning of the year, but you can only spend it on certain things. So if you want to buy items outside of this strict supply, then yes, you have to spend the money on your own. Absolutely. And we do. We spend a lot of money outside of what we're given in the beginning of the year, which isn't that much. It's about $250, I think. It's really not that much.
You said the challenge is the adult. I thought that you would say mental health and mass shooting. Every time there's a mass shooting, they say, oh, it's mental health. But now you're telling me you're not allowed to talk about mental health.
So, Marav, it's funny that you bring that up because
What?
today, February 14th,
Yeah.
is the anniversary, the 7-year anniversary of the largest mass shooting here in Florida, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And we received from the district something to read. And this year, it was a quarter of the length of what it is normally in the past. My principal got on at 11:17 or whatever the time the shooting started. I mean, the horrific, horrible thing. And when he put the phone down, he looked at me and he said, "What did I just read? This is not what I normally read." It was very cut and dry. It didn't mention anything about mental health, didn't mention anything about how horrible all of this is. It was just in memoriam of those who died on February 14th, 7 years ago, blah, blah, blah.
No,
It
so
was kind of heartbreaking.
it's unbelievable. Let's take this situation, for example. So then, if as a teacher you go back to the classroom, are you allowed to talk about it and about, without saying mental health, but say problem in the head or whatever?
Yes, you can talk about it in a sort of roundabout way without using the words that we're not allowed to use anymore.
I am
Really
so
getting
shocked.
into,
This
I
is
know,
America. I can't believe it.
I know. Well, welcome to Florida, as we'd like to say, with a DUH at the end.
Wow.
It is difficult. And, you talked about the mass shootings, and we have drills
How
till
often do you have drills?
we have lockdown drills, I want to say at least twice every 9 weeks. I know we have a big fire drill coming up next week. We have to keep our doors locked. It's just, if you constantly are thinking about that, you're going to be paralyzed with fear. We
Right.
just don't think about it. We just,
Did you ever go through some
a
weapon
lockdown.
trainings?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No, not me. I'm anti-weapons
And
personally. However, we did have a lockdown. We did have a scare about a year and a half ago where they put our school on lockdown. It happens all the time,
when
whether
you
it's
say lockdown, what does it mean? The whole school is locked inside?
the whole school is locked inside until the police officers come with their dogs and their guns drawn and check every single classroom. So we were in school. School normally lets out about 2:20. This maybe happened at about 11. We were in school till about 5 o'clock that day. Thankfully, it was a false alarm, but this happens every day that these schools go on lockdown every day.
Wow, that is so depressing. So let me ask you something. Can you point the students to things online that they can learn and get more knowledge than you are allowed to teach them? Is it like in secretive that you have to tell them, like we are in Russia?
A little bit. I feel like you have to develop a trust and communication with certain students. You know who you can talk to. However, maybe they mention something at home and their parents come back. It's kind of scary. It is kind of like we're in Russia. But you have to develop a relationship with the students that you can trust to try and help them, to try and point them in the right direction.
So I don't
Like,
want to end on a bad note and a depressing
no,
note, because I've been following Florida politics and all of that. That's infuriating, but it's even more than I thought. This is really crazy, and it's the education. It's your next generation. How can you do that? But I don't want to end on a depressing note. I want to know if you have a success story of a student that comes to mind that you can share with us, and we will all understand why people are staying under this condition and keep educating the youth.
oh, I have so many success stories of so many students. When I taught fifth grade and I moved to the high school, it was the feeder pattern high school. So I taught students in fifth grade, in ninth grade, in 10th grade, and in 12th grade. So some of these students I've had for 4 years running. So, I've seen students who were maybe struggling in elementary school and kind of came into their own in high school. And I have one student in mind. I won't say his name. He was struggling with his own sexuality
Mm-hmm.
and was able to finally, again, we have a lot of Hispanics, and there's the machismo, but he was able to shine and really come into his own. He eventually was water polo team, National Honor Society, all student government association. On a whim, applied to Dartmouth, got in early decision.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, amazing. And so we have the students come back every year to speak to the seniors, our alumni.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back this year and he's graduating and he's so happy and he looks so amazing. And that's the other thing. I get to see them. They come back. And there are so many success stories. And I don't want to end on a bad note either, because this is what I do. And this is something that I will be doing for the next 7 or 8 years.
Right.
And yes, I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning. And yes, sometimes I don't get home till 4 o'clock. But this is our future.
And it's
And
very fulfilling.
it is fulfilling. And we have to have hope. We
Yes.
have to have hope. There has to be a shining light.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to save everybody, but I'm going to make my mark. And that's what I want. I want them to carry the light with them.
Excellent. Do you think that student, by the way, was change anybody's mind in the school? All the machismos, did it change? Did it make a dent?
Probably. He probably did, because he was able to speak up for himself and he was able to rise to the top and become a leader. So yeah, I think it did.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's
I
great.
mean, he showed them. He sure did. I mean, he's
Wow.
graduating from Dartmouth in a couple months and yeah,
Fantastic.
really proud of him.
That is a great story.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much. That was so interesting.
Thank you
We
for
just
having
hope
me.
for better days for Florida, for Florida's youth.
I agree. Shine the light.
Right. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, Mirav. You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Okay, that's a wrap for today. If you have a comment or question or would like us to cover a certain job, please let us know. Visit our website at howmuchcanimake.info. We would love to hear from you. And on your way out, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with anyone who is curious about their next job. See you next time.